Hi everyone. So if you're new to FX trading, what I want to do is talk about what to expect, and also talk about my own experiences. So I've basically had two stabs at this. So my first stab, I spent about 2 years learning lots of systems and purely trading technically on low time frames using lots of indicators. So here'd be a typical chart I'll be using: stochastic, MACD, RSI indicator. Oh, this has crossed over this point here, so I need to go long, blah, blah, blah. A few moving averages. Because there's so many indicators on the charts, the actual charts themselves are quite small. I'll be looking at 30-minute intervals or hourly minute um, intervals. I'll be spending a lot of time staring at charts and slowly going mad throughout the day. And after all my hard work over a 2 year period, I blew up my whole account. I lost everything in my account. And I started to get really frustrated at the end. I didn't understand why prices are moving in the directions they're moving. When news came out and I got stopped out, I'd be thinking I was unlucky because I had no awareness of news coming out. So that was my first experience. But since joining my online membership site, I've learned how to do it a much better way, and I'm now being consistently profitable month after month so far. So what a typical weekly habit will be now for me is I watch the news once or twice a day. It doesn't have to, you don't have to spend hours doing this. I use CNBC and Bloomberg, and I'm just looking at the main headlines usually. Most of the time, um, there's nothing relevant, or the headline will tell you what you need to know. So more discussion about Brexit. So that makes me keen to short the GBP because of the uncertainty whether UK will remain in the euro or not. There's always lots of stories about oil. Oil speculators bet rallies over, blah blah blah. So that's interesting because that affects the price of oil. What have we got here? Um, Oil rally not done. Could soon see $50, which totally contradicts the other article. So you get lots of articles based on people's opinion, which generally aren't worth anything. The more interesting articles are where you actually have specific facts. So let's find this one. Oil speculators bet rallies over. And this one has got some specific facts in it. Money managers lost faith in the oil's recent rally as doubts grew over whether major producers will be able to agree on an output freeze. So we know that there's been no agreement on the output freeze, and I'm expecting it to go down because of that. But here's a fact: futures in West Texas Intermediate oil retreated last week. There you go, facts and figures, not someone's opinion. So it's those kind of articles which are useful. So things I'm looking at are anything that affects inflation, interest rates, or central bank monetary policies, or something like oil, which affects a specific currency. For instance, Canada is very heavily dependent on oil. So if I'm looking to trade the Canadian dollar, I need to know what's happening to oil. Then once a week, I'll also be checking other things that can affect currency. So I'll look at things like, here's the commodity index. So, I can see commodities are currently dropping. So for currencies like the Australian dollar, I'm keen to short them because Australia is heavily dependent on commodities. Um, what's happening to 2 year bond yields in the US? They're dropping, which means pe- people are becoming more and more wary. So we could be back in a risk-off environment at some point soon, etc. So it's trying to get a feel of how what's happening to the whole market. So from that, I'll create my weekly FX trading plan. So I'll have a list of currencies that I'll want to be long in, and I'll have a list of currencies I want to be short in. So I've got currencies to apply against each other. Then I start looking at the FX charts. So, for instance, in that example, because commodities are dropping, including oil, oil's dropping as well now. Let's look at the daily. Look at that. It was a downward range and now it's dropped below that. So I'm really keen to be short the Aussie. So I'll look at Aussie charts. Um, Here's the Aussie against the yen. In fact, this is a trade I just entered this morning. I've just shorted the Aussie against the yen. So I like that setup. What's the pounds against the yen look like? That's looking good. If this 4 hour bar can close below this level, then I'll short the pound against the yen as well, um, etc. So because I've got a strong fundamental view, I'm then just using the charts and technical analysis to decide when I enter the trades and where to put my stops. And this makes it so much more relaxing for me, and it makes me so much more confident in my trades. Whereas in the past, because I didn't understand why prices were moving, um, it was all quite stressful. And the other thing I'm doing, as per recommended by my mentors, is I'm using longer time frames. I'm usually using the daily chart, but I'll go down to 4 hour and sometimes 1 hour when I'm actually picking my entry points. But generally, I'll never look at anything below a 4 hour. The other thing I haven't mentioned is need to be aware of the news coming up. So for instance, today's Monday. I know at 2:30 we just had some negative news about Australian retail sales, which is another reason why I want to short the Aussie. At 9:30 we've got construction PMI. So would I enter a trade in the pound just before 9:30? Probably not, unless the technicals were looking so strong. Tomorrow there's something affecting my Aussie trade, the trade balance, cash rate, RBA rate statement. I don't even know what those are actually. So, um, but then we've got another PMI. PMI is always important for the pound, etc. So you've always got to be aware of what news is coming up. And so before news, you don't really want to be entering new trades in anything that has a red flag. Or if you have existing trades, you want to be raising your stop loss or closing the trades. You don't want to be gambling. So you just always want to be protecting yourself, managing your risk. So from all this, my FX trading is quite relaxed now. I'm spending less than an hour a day in it, and I'm enjoying it. And it's interesting finding about macroeconomics.